Yep. Williston, it's action finance for Wawa. Or, hey, I live in for a second round. Actually, I was wondering if you could tell them about your gender equity on the state level.
Thank you. So this is a softball. Josh is the one paying attention and saw that last week I put out a new women's economic opportunity agenda, policy paper, which you can all go to my website and find. But you know, we've made progress in the area of economic opportunities for women over the last few decades, but we are not yet where we need to be. In Massachusetts, women make 83 cents for every dollar a man makes. Women are not adequately represented in leadership positions in corporations, whether it's on boards or in other leadership positions. And there are lots of issues that are holding lots of people back, but disproportionately women. So you can go to my website and see my entire plan in terms of what I'm proposing to do, but just a couple of highlights. Equal pay. I am committing to ensure that in state government, we will eliminate the wage gap for all state employees, period. And we will be an example, and we will ask corporations and businesses in this state to follow our example.
Are you prepared to do it with contractors as well?
With contractors, what I'm proposing to do is require, there's a new equal pay law that was passed last year, which requires comparable pay for comparable work, equal pay for comparable work. What I'm proposing to do with all state contractors and vendors is require that they demonstrate to us that they are fully compliant with the equal pay law. So that would require them to provide us with data, not private personal information, but data we would need to confirm that they're complying with equal pay in Massachusetts and doing business with state government. This is actually something modeled off of an executive order President Obama issued for the federal government that President Trump revoked. I also, in terms of state vendors, will require that at least 30%, any large corporation doing business with state government, 30% of their board has to have women representation and minority representation, period. We need to set an example, and we need to do it. We need to do it now. This is a problem in our industry and in companies across Massachusetts. I'm also saying, you know, one of the issues I care deeply about that I talked about, childcare, early education and childcare. This is a huge issue holding many families back, and unfortunately many times women who can't afford, we're the most expensive state in the country when it comes to childcare and preschool. It costs about $15,000 a year to send one kid. Most families can't afford it. And the evidence is clear. This is game-changing for young kids in terms of their ability to be successful in school and in life. But it's also the difference between a parent being able to go to work or not. And I think one of the things we can do that can make the biggest difference and have the biggest return on investment for kids and families and women is to ensure that every single child and every single family has access to affordable, high-quality childcare and preschool, which I've committed to by the end of my first term. This is another area where we have no leadership, where this is the most formative period of a person's life. 90% of brain development happens before age 5. There are so many families in this state for which this is the issue that's holding them back. And yet we're not only not making progress, this is the time in a person's life we do the least, and there's no plan to get us to a better place. So there's a lot more that I propose. I encourage you to go look at my agenda on this. And to the extent you've got ideas of other things I should be thinking about or supporting, please let me know. Yes, sir.
Can you tell us a little bit about your position on charter school education in Massachusetts and whether under a Gonzalez administration the state would be doing anything differently around funding of that?
Yeah, what is your name?
Eric.
Eric, thank you for the question. So let me start by saying I did not support question 2, which was a ballot question on the ballot last year, which would have, which would have expanded the number of charter schools authorized to exist in the state. What I didn't like about it, so I'm not fundamentally opposed to charter schools for the original purpose for which they were intended, which is to be incubators for innovation and trying new things that could be replicated across the broader public school system. But this is the most important thing government does and that we do collectively through government, is to ensure every single child in this state has access to a great quality public education. The most important thing we do. And to me, the charter school ballot question and Governor Baker's entire agenda on this issue, which was this ballot question, that's it. That's his agenda for K-12 public education, was a cop-out. Even if you believe that a few more charter schools will provide better education to a few more kids, it's a few more schools for a few more kids. What about everybody else? What about everybody else? We need to work with a sense of urgency to ensure that every single one of our schools is great. Is great. And in my view, the education policy shouldn't be about trying to pit public schools against each other and create a competitive market for schools. This is one thing we do together that we just need to do well for everybody. And competition in a truly competitive market means there are winners and losers. There can be no losers. And unfortunately, we're great in Massachusetts. We have one of the best public education systems based on our standardized test scores. But we also have the highest achievement gap. And right now there are winners and losers. And there are, particularly in urban lower income districts or rural lower income districts, there are kids who we aren't doing as good a job for as we need to. And we need to focus on that. We also need to recognize that a big driver of the difference in outcomes is the difference in life circumstances. In a lot of the district, there's a very strong correlation between income levels and poverty levels and the MCAS scores at a public school. Very strong correlation. And we need to recognize the fact that there are underlying drivers like poverty and homelessness and access to healthy food and access to health care and other conditions that are affecting kids' ability to learn. And we need to do a better job in government addressing some of those underlying conditions too, and not blaming teachers in those schools for not getting the same results as the teachers in Williston. Yes?
What do you think?
What is your name?
Ellie.
Ellie, thanks for being here.
What do you think is the most important thing about the American system of government?
The most important thing about the American system of government. Sum it up in one. Let me do this. Instead of trying to distill it down to the most important, let me tell you one of the things, Ellie, that I love about our system of government. I love the fact that a president who may think he's a dictator is not. Right? That we have a system of checks and balances. And that our government, based on the brilliant way it was structured, ensures that no one person is in control of everything. And it requires that people in government listen. Listen, collaborate, understand different interests that different people have, whether it's as governor, understanding the interests of different legislators, understand the interests of different stakeholders who have an interest in what state government does. You have to listen. And the whole trick of making government work successfully for people based on the brilliant system we have is if this is where you're trying to go. And we should always be trying to make progress for all the reasons I talked about before. If this is where you're trying to go, based on that process of listening and collaborating and working with everyone else, what is that path that's going to get you as close to that place as possible? That is the way our government works, and it's the way it should work. It's great. It's healthy. And right now, we've got a governor. Sorry, Pat left for this part. We have a governor who isn't even trying to get there and boasts about how bipartisan he is and how he's getting along with everybody in the Democratic legislature. Well, it's one thing to get along, but to what end? To what end? We need to push. We need a governor who's pushing, who's working collaboratively, who's listening, who is trying to account for all those different interests, but is staying focused on the fact that we have to make government work for people. We have to make progress on issues that affect people. Government needs to be there to stand up for every single person in this state. And even though if I'm governor, we may not do everything I want to do, We are going to try, and we're going to work through the brilliant system of government we have to make progress. We will make progress. And it's really neat, in my view, that our system of government works that way, and I love that it works that way. And I actually have experience when I worked for Governor Patrick working through that system and appreciating it up close and personal. And I think that experience will lend itself to my being able to be an effective governor. Yes, sir. Yes.
7:41, which means that you feel so incredibly compelled to go back to study hall.